make the service. Really, really do make the service. Right? They open our hearts every Sunday. So anyway, so blessed to be here with all of you today, and want to wish you all a happy Father's Day. Don't know quite what it means to be a father. Kind of do, but not quite. So our talk today is, who's your daddy? I don't know what happened to Daddy, but it's supposed to be, who's your daddy? And we picked that. This is part 1. Dr. Dale will be doing part 2 of Who's Your Daddy, okay? So we picked this title because do you really know who your I mean, we know maybe who the body was, but did we really know who our daddy was? What they were going through? What it was like being a father? I don't know. I know what it was like being a mother, but who's your daddy? So I want you to know that a lot of my ideas came from AI, because I'm sitting there, I don't really know what to talk about as your daddy. What does that mean? And so I went and I said, okay, if I'm giving a spiritual talk on daddy, what were some of the pointers that I should talk about? And it was very interesting. And before I did that, first I went to Ernest Holmes. I went to our textbook. Oh, first of all, that's my daddy. That's my daddy with me when I was little. And my dad was born January 29th, 1926. He made his transition the Sunday after Thanksgiving in 2006. And luckily he was here, not when he made his transition, but that weekend. And that day before, I got to be alone with my dad. I don't know where everybody, my sister, my mom, they must have all been out shopping. But I was home with my dad, and my dad had emphysema pretty bad. And anyway, it was a beautiful day, and my dad, that Saturday, and my dad was sitting there, and I think I've shared this story before, but he was watching Mass, very devout Catholic. He was watching Mass, and then after Mass, there was some kind of special, and there were the archangels. And my dad said, you know, Laura, when I die, I hope I get some wings like that. And I go, oh, Daddy, you will. If you want them, you can have them. And he goes, really? I go, oh, yeah, don't you know after you make your transition, your life is beautiful, and you get to have and do and be anything you want. He goes, And then he goes, I don't know, Laura, look at all those angels. They're all really good-looking bucks, son of a guns. They're all young and handsome. I'm an old fart. This is his words. And I go, Dad, I said, don't you know when you make your transition, you get to go back to the best you looked, you know, your youngest, most vibrant body. And he goes, really? He goes, you know, I was a pretty good-looking son of a gun. And I said, yes, you were, Daddy. And that was on Saturday. And that Sunday I had to come to church, and they were leaving, my sister and all of them, and my mom. They were going back to Orange County, and I kissed my dad goodbye. And I came out of church that Sunday, and there were all these missed phone calls from my sister. And I just knew he had made his transition. And I was actually relieved from he had really breathing difficulties. And it's tough to see somebody you love suffer. You want them to stay, but you also want them to be free. And in fact, that morning before I left, I did my morning prayers. And in my prayers, I said, Daddy, it's okay if you go. We'll take care of Mommy. We're all fine. You know, and I remember I kissed him goodbye in the car. And he made his transition when he got home. So that's my daddy. And my dad came from Maui. He was born and raised in Maui. And he wasn't even part of the United States then. And then when Pearl Harbor came, he went and fought and stuff. But that's my daddy. So I looked up Ernest Holmes. This is God as the universal parent, mind, and spirit. So that truly is our original Father, our only Father. That is that divine energy that goes with us everywhere. Everywhere we are, this is it. And just think, as humans, God gives us the honor of birthing children, of having these little ones to raise and to give that love to in a physical sense that they can't get from the divine. And as earthly fathers, we mirror divine love, guidance, and provision. I think of my father. That's what he did. He worked really hard. He wasn't, when I grew up, obviously we didn't have all the phones and the things to follow our children around, and so forth. But my father was a great provider. He wasn't a real affectionate person, and I did miss that as a child. I loved when my uncle came, who I found out later was gay. He was the one that was loving on me. He was the one that, in fact, I said, Unky, I wish you were my daddy, because the way he would put me on his lap, he was a teacher, and he was so loving. And not that my dad wasn't, my dad was really strict and stuff, but I knew my dad loved me. But as earthly fathers, even if we're a woman, we can give that guidance. We can be that love. Each and every one of us wants to go around with that love in our hearts and for who we are and for when we come into contact with others. A spiritual father is someone who provides guidance, wisdom, and spiritual insight. They've walked the path themselves and can provide valuable insight and support. So all of us, whether you're a man or a woman, I look around and I think most of us are older. We've lived quite a life, and we do have this wisdom, and we can share this love. Not that we force it on people, but if we see somebody going through a hard time or fighting with something, let's be that love, that kindness, not from a place of I know it all, but just to be a good listener, just to be there with them and help people walk down their paths. If you've been through it, you understand what it's like, and you can guide somebody that could use that helping hand. Memories and milestones. I wish I would have done this. Take time to reminisce about special moments with your children, their first steps, laughter, and shared experiences. Celebrate the milestones you've witnessed. And so I thought, I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have marked the first day Ryan walked, or the day I remember when his brother was born. And Ryan was so excited that he had a little baby brother, and his dad brought him to the hospital. And when he saw Corey, he just lit up like a Christmas tree. Remember those moments in your life when these things happen. They are special, and share them with your children. Even if you don't have the best relationship, remind them sometimes. Even just write them a note about, oh my gosh, I so remember that day. So I thought yesterday, okay, I got to talk about Father's Day tomorrow. So I called Corey, my youngest son, who has two little girls, 6 and a 4-year-old. She'll be 4. Anyway, 6 and 4. And I said, Corey, I know what it was like being a mom. When they put Brian in my arms for the first time, this person who didn't want kids, how I just melted. It was just pure love. So I said, Corey, what was it like for you as a dad when they put Olivia in your arms? And he goes, well, Mom, there were some issues at first. We were worried about her. So he said, I was in a state of more like concern. He said, I don't know that I felt like what you're describing. He said, but a little while later, he said, I remember I was out, they called them the squad. They're 4 guys that he went to law school with, and they'd get together and have a drink. And he said, I was with the squad, and all of a sudden I missed Olivia. And he said, I literally started crying. He said, tears came down because I realized just how much I love being her dad and being with her. Those are the memories we need to take, And he said, and then when Emma was born, he said, and I held her and I thought, our family is complete now. Our family is complete. This is what this divine love is all about. That feeling of your wholeness, that feeling of, as a parent, you bring in this life into this world. What an honor, what a privilege. And he said, and Corey and Tiffany wouldn't let any of us in till Olivia came in to meet her sister. And then he let us all in. And he said, and the look on her face when she saw her sister. You know, and we're all family. We're witnesses. We get to witness other people when they have their grandchildren. May not be ours, but we can remember. And, you know, and I'm sure that there are people in here that maybe didn't have a good childhood. Maybe their parents weren't the kindest or the nicest. But that doesn't stop you. You can say, thank you for teaching me that. I am going to be different. I am going to be this love in the world. And so we all have memories and milestones in our lives. So reflecting our journey, our lives are like journals. Each page is filled with stories of love, sacrifice, and growth. I remember my dad was so hard on me in school. You know, I've shared this before. If I got a C in my report, everything could be all A's and B's. He sees one C and he freaked out over that C. And here's a man who didn't even finish high school, okay, and he's worried about my grades. I'm in my senior year, and you know what they wanted me to do? They said, you should go to airline school. My mom said this. You should go to airline school so you can travel the world and meet a rich husband and get married. And it's like, why the hell did I have to study so hard? You know, I could have done that without, you know. And I did go to airline school, but I had already fallen in love with my husband. And I could have got a job in New York. I was too young to be a flight attendant, but I could have done reservations and stuff. And I came back to California, snuck off, and got married. And that really irritated my dad. But anyway, that's another story, another time. Anyway, but think about if we had written journals as our children were growing up, those special moments, even those irritating moments. I'm not saying it was all divine, wonderful things, but I would go through it all over again. I would go through that all over again. And I feel so blessed that I have these wonderful sons. And I got to experience what it was like being a parent. And it's a lot of responsibility. And again, going back, if you had a rough childhood because of your parents, your dad was not very nice or not very warm, you don't know what his childhood. My dad grew up in his 20s and 30s, and it was different, you know. They couldn't track us. They couldn't track their kids. They weren't tracked. Their parents were different. So just be grateful that divine God let you come into this earth, and you get to learn from them what you want to do different. Ernest said, perhaps the key measure of successful parenting, despite whatever mistakes we made, is whether our children really understand that we love them as they are, not as we wish them to be. And that's so true. And I do. Ryan, I always tell my kids every day when I talk to them, I love them. And you should do that with everybody, because you never know when that might be the last time you get to say it. Because none of us are guaranteed an hour from now, 5 minutes from now. So treat everybody with that divine love. And happiness is when you realize that your kids have turned out to be wonderful and amazing people. And I can say amen to that. Thank you. Namaste. Now, Dr. Dale.
Oh, that was so heartwarming. Oh, so this is Who's Your Daddy Part 2. We're going in a different direction. I wonder what happened to the daddy. That's kind of weird. Oh, well. Who's your daddy? Yeah, I have to credit Dr. Laura for finding the imagery. Orion found the imagery. We just, when Dr. Laura's involved, though, there's going to be some sarcasm and irreverence. For those of you that don't know, Dr. Laura is the irreverent reverend. And we always expect the most irreverent out of her. And she loves it. And we love it. We love it. So when I was a little girl, I went through a part of my life where I wanted different parents. And so I looked. Did we all do that? Well, it wasn't just me. And for my mom, I wanted either Cher or Shirley Partridge. For my dad, I wanted Tom Corbett from The Courtship of Eddie's Father. That is who my ideal dad was, because I wanted a dad who would take walks with me and I could ask him questions about life, a dad who was really sensitive and loving, a dad who just was really there for me. That was my ideal dad, a dad that was like your friend. That's what Little Dale wanted. But Little Dale got Howard Olansky. Doesn't he look nice, though? I love this picture of my dad. This was like his happy place. He had his cigarette in his hand. Something was on the barbecue. This was a really cool stray cat that we kind of just adopted, and the cat's like waiting for the meat to be cooked, I'm sure. But this is my dad, and I love my dad, but he had his edges to him. I think our dads, this is a really interesting thing. Dr. Laura and I, our dads passed the same year within about 3 weeks of each other, which is a total trip. Yeah. But my dad was really critical. He wasn't emotionally really available there. He was nice, though, and he was a great provider for our family. And I really did love him and grew to appreciate him. And something that was really interesting, when he made his transition, my sister and I, my mom was already incapacitated because she had had a stroke. So my sister Ellen and I were getting the details together, inviting all these people. And my dad had started his own publishing magazine, or a magazine publisher of a carpet magazine of all things. And my sister and I used to joke about it, even though we were very grateful for the financial prosperity it brought to our family. But we always laughed about it. We're like, this carpeting magazine, blah, 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 blah. And so we made sure that all the carpeting people knew of my dad's passing so they could come to the funeral. And so we're standing there waiting for people to come, and this massive amount of people show up at his funeral. People we didn't know who they were. And these people were coming up to us and saying how much our dad meant to them, to all of them. And we were thinking, what a cool dad that we had, because I know, right? We didn't know that. They were nice. He was nice to them, but not us. No, I kid. But it was really, really cool. For those of you who haven't been to a Jewish funeral, there's this one part, and it's like, I think it's one of the most profound parts. Everybody shovels a little bit of dirt on in the grave. It's kind of like just the ceremony of just saying the person is now not here. And man, I looked, and there was this line of people, at least 30 people waiting to shovel some dirt on my dad. And I thought, but my sister and I we were so mind blown because we didn't know that side of him. We didn't know that he was a father to so many people and that people loved him. He was a role model to them. And it really changed my mind about my dad. It started a real big healing for me. But so I think that when we're in this state of being with our parents, we've got this expectation, right? We've got this expectation that they're supposed to be a certain way. And then we become disappointed because they're not. And I know, when I was thinking about doing our talk today, there's so many different father experiences in this room. And I'm like, how do you talk to it all? Some people revered their father. Some people, dad was best friend. And some people don't like their dads or didn't have a dad. So I think for me, this is just about trying to bring us all to a state of wherever we are with our dad, to find peace with that, whatever it is. So although it may seem like we didn't have the perfect father, we did, because he activated the qualities that we needed to develop and become the person who we are today. Because I know, even though I loved The Courtship of Eddie's Father and I wanted Bill Bixby to be my dad, he wouldn't have brought out these other aspects of me, like this desire to achieve really big, this idea of being able to be better. I don't know if I might have been too soft on myself. And my dad challenged me to be better, to do better, and to trust in myself. And I really appreciate that about what he taught me. And it really made me realize that our dads are human beings. Dr. Laura touched on that today about how They're doing the best they can. They're doing what's right for them. And boy, my dad had his wounds, and I really learned a lot about them. So he really showed up in the perfect way for me. And the longer I'm here on planet Earth, I realize this really is a place of learning. And I believe that we come in here and come into relationship with people that do stretch us and that do put us in a place where we need to find out who we are, because my dad did that. He opened me up to find a place of love inside of myself that I expected him to give to me in a certain way, because he did give it to me in a different way. But he allowed me to find love in my heart in a way that is sensitive and kind and gentle. Even though it wasn't outside of myself, I found it inside. And that's the beauty of our relationships. So it's all about finding the inner daddy. Find your inner daddy. Dr. Laura talks so beautifully about what Ernest Holmes taught us, about that inner father figure. And, as I'm thinking about this whole father of it all, it really isn't gender specific. I got to just say that it doesn't matter whether you're a dad or a mom. These qualities are universal to all of us. It's just that the father became the symbol of it, right? So today we celebrate that symbol and we find what dad is to us. And to me, it's stuff like strength, it's balance, it's calm, it's assuredness, it's being a provider, loving, kind, coaxing you to believe in yourself. And as this spiritual journey unfolds for all of us who are here, because everybody's here because you feel something inside of yourself that's your soul. I don't think people would want to come here if there wasn't an awareness there's something inside of me that is deeply, deeply spiritual, and I want to know more about that, right? And so as we're on this spiritual journey, and I call this spiritual maturity, what happens to us is we've got all these wonderful people in our lives that are symbolic of something, that means something, that represents something, like dad, right? We've got that, but spiritual maturity tells us that someday they may not be here anymore, or they might move, or something happens and they're not in our lives. Spiritual maturity always directs us inside and says, you know what? You've got it inside of you, all of that. And a lot of you know the last 3 years have been a real challenge for me growing into a spiritual leader. Really tough stuff. And there were so many times where I said, God, I wish I could call my dad, because I know not only would he have something profound to say, but he would have something deeply sarcastic that would help break the inner tension that I'm feeling. But I remember, I go, you know what Dad would tell me? Dale, you've got it inside of you. Stand up, be who you are, see the truth. Be in that place of assuredness, of certainty, and trust yourself. So even though he is not here, he's here. And that goes for all people in our lives that are really meaningful and learned and taught us something that was powerful. Our spiritual growth teaches us always, yes, you got it inside too. Paramahansa Yogananda says, I am a spark of the fire of spirit. I am an atom of the cosmic flame. I am a cell of the vast universal body of the Father. I and my Father are one. Now, I've got to out myself here right now, which I love to do up here. Reverend William and I are teaching this class, and we're reading the Science of Mind, like the 1938 version, and there's a lot of Father in there. Me and the Father, I and the Father. And I got really triggered during a class a few weeks ago. I came home going, all this Father stuff. Dad, Father this, Father that. Where's the mother in it all? And I'm into the whole women empowerment. I'm like, yeah, and I know he wrote in 1938, and nobody said the mother is with, I and the mother are one. He didn't say that, but I realized I had an issue. I had a daddy issue going on, and so I thought about what was going on inside of me, and I realized my resistance was about finding the Father within. I didn't want to find that because I thought I had some preconceptions or misconceptions about what Father energy is. And I thought, this is an opportunity for me to claim the Father within, to say, you know what, I am it. And yesterday when I was thinking about my talk, I really felt that. I go, you know what, Dale? You claim that you are the calm, that you are the balanced person, that you are the wisdom. All those things that mean Father to me, I really got it. They are who I am. And that's what Yogananda is saying. That's what Ernest Holmes is saying. There was nothing to be, they were not dissing the mother. It was just finding a certain energy inside of ourselves that we all have, claiming it, owning it, because you know what? It really helps us get through life. because sometimes life gets really tricky, challenging, and difficult. And Father energy really helps anchor us into what's possible. It gives us that solid ground in which to be able to say, you know what, I see this happening, that happening, that happening. I am not going to fall apart. I'm going to stand up in that Father energy and steer the course, see what I can do, and be strong. That's the gift of the Father within. So I want to say thank you. I want to say happy Father's Day to all of you, and for all of you that represent a father to somebody else, because you have no idea, like my dad, he had no idea the lives that he touched by being that Father energy. And moms, women, we can be that Father energy too. It's just a symbol, but it's important because Father energy, Mother energy, all this other energy, it is the whole of who we are. And we've got to bring our whole energy into this world because that creates better us and a better world. So enjoy your Father's Day. Those online, enjoy your Father's Day. Enjoy being with your family. And thank you for listening to Dr. Laura and I today. Namaste.